Treating seed this spring? AGI Storm FX brings you the ultimate innovation in seed treating for your modern-day farming operation, offering you speed, accuracy, and flexibility. With a simplified design, gentle handling, and precise performance, you can choose to pre-treat or treat your seed just in time. This season, choose the AGI Storm FX seed treater to keep you on schedule and ahead of the curve. Visit aggrowth.com for more information or to find your nearest dealer.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's special episode of the Rural Woman Podcast. Today you're going to hear a replay, an oldie but a goodie of a conversation between myself and fellow podcaster Bev Ross, who is the co-host of Drink and Farm and the host of the Joy Farmer podcast. And we are discussing our joint venture, Positively Farming Media. Now, you may or may not have heard of Positively Farming Media before here on the podcast, but for those of you who don't know, Positively Farming Media is a hub for creators in the food and agriculture space to connect and collaborate for growth. Our Podcast Mastermind is a peer-to-peer podcast mentoring group developed with the goal of fostering connection and collaboration between podcasters in the food and agriculture space. Now, Bev and I launched Positively Farming Media back in 2021, and we have been slowly growing our podcast network and sharing our message ever since then. And it has been one of the greatest pleasures that I've had as a podcaster in the food and agriculture space to connect with others in this space. So today you're going to hear more about Positively Farming Media. And over the next little while here on the Rural Woman Podcast, you are going to hear episodes from the members of the Positively Farming Media Network. I am so excited to share their episodes from their shows here on my podcast and for you to get to know them a bit better and hear more from these incredible people in the food and agriculture podcasting space. Without further ado, my friends, let's get to this special replay of introducing you to Positively Farming Media. Hi, I'm Caitlin Dubin, and this is the Rural Woman Podcast. I'm a first-generation farmer who married into agriculture. Born and raised in a city, I was so unfamiliar with where my food came from, but I was determined to figure it out. Through my journey into agriculture, I saw women who were strong but humble, often taking a back seat. To me, these women were leaders who deserved a seat at the table. I created the Rural Woman Podcast to share the voices of women in an industry whose stories often went untold. The rural entrepreneurs who live and breathe their work, full of grit and pride. We come here to share our stories, to be in community with each other, to be challenged and inspired, but most importantly, to be celebrated and to be heard. We may not all live, farm, ranch, or homestead the same, but we are all connected. We are rural women, and our stories are worthy of being told. Hi, Bev.
Oh, hey there, Caitlin. Had to do it.
How are you?
Excellent. And extra excellent because we get to talk about one of my new favorite subjects today.
It is also my favorite subject, and I am so excited to share with our respective audiences what we have been working on. Why don't you introduce what we're talking about?
Yes, today we are talking about Positively Farming Media, which is our podcast hub that is working to build a community that connects and cultivates growth-oriented farm and food storytellers.
So exciting, and all of the good things that are going to come out of this. So, Bev, when you say growth-oriented, what does that mean? to you? And what does that mean for Positively Farming Media?
So in my mind, there are like 5 pillars or 5 things that kind of come to mind when I think of growth oriented. And the first one is they are podcasters who seek development over approval, which is super, super uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie. They look at failure or mistakes as opportunities to learn, are willing and open to take risks, also want to change and make change both personally and within their respective communities. And they would like to build community over being competitive with each other.
Those are very strong pillars, very strong. And I think those perfectly describe what we've developed over the last few months here. Like we said, it's a hub for creators in the food and agriculture space to connect with one another and come together, because like you and I know so well how much work goes into podcasting and podcasts, and we kind of work in silos. Hey, like we do our own thing, and it can get kind of lonely.
Yeah, it can totally get lonely. And, when you're working by yourself, I think one of the things that can happen is, those 5 pillars that we've built our foundation of Positively Farming Media on. It can be hard to practice those when you're by yourself. And also, I just wanted to say really quick too, like if you heard those and was like, oh man, like those are great things to aspire to, but I don't feel like I live up to them perfectly. Like these are things that we seek to do, but that we're going to do imperfectly over and over again while we practice it. And this is a space that is a good space to do that in, because you're surrounded by other people that have the same goal, that want to do that same thing.
For sure. And it comes to mind progress over perfection, because none of us are perfect. None of our podcasts are perfect. Let me be honest here. But together we can learn and build new opportunities together. So our mastermind is a peer-to-peer podcast mentoring group that was developed with the goal of fostering these connections and collaborations between podcasters in the food and agriculture space. So Bev, tell us more about what's included in our mastermind.
Oh, our mastermind is so awesome because honestly, it includes so much. And I don't want to oversell it or anything, but truly, there's a lot of stuff that we've packed into it because it was really important to us that we tried to cover all the bases of things that we could possibly help and collaborate with our fellow podcasters on. And the first thing is we created a member-only online community. So we have a great place to get together and have access to each other and talk anytime we need to. We've also developed monthly training modules that are designed to increase your show's quality, your listenership, and also bring together advertising opportunities, which is something that's super, super hard to come by when you're working all by yourself. Our topics that we've developed include monetization, asking the right interview questions, streamlining the production and distribution of your podcast, and so much more. Caitlin, what were our first 2 modules about that we've already released and discussed in the group?
So our first module that was released was going back to the basics, which I think is an important topic for podcasters who have been doing this for a while, like you and I personally have, as well as even people who have been doing this for as little as 6 months. I think reconnecting to why you started your podcast in the first place is so important to kind of make sure that you don't experience the podcaster's burnout that I think a lot of us go through when we're doing the weekly quote unquote mundane tasks of doing podcasting and creating and releasing a podcast every week. So I think going back to the basics of your podcast and going through things like your Apple description and those kinds of things. Those are the types of things that we covered in the first module. And in our second module that we released was all about tech. Not my most favorite thing about podcasting, if I'm being honest here, is the technical aspect and the editing and all of those things. But we went back through and talked about the basics of editing and how to make sure that your RSS feed is distributed properly, those types of things to make sure that your sound is as good as it can get for your budget and all of those types of things. We talked about microphones, headphones. Honestly, Bev, we talk about so many things in these modules. Like you said, like everything is just really jam-packed and there's so much to learn. Not only from us personally, but so much to learn from our members as well.
Yeah. In fact, I was really happy that we did that RSS feed exercise because I discovered that I had forgotten to send the Joy Farmer podcast to Spotify. And I would have never known that if we hadn't talked about it during that live call.
Right.
So
I think the semi-monthly live coaching calls are probably my favorite thing about this whole mastermind. I just leave those calls feeling so motivated and full of so many great ideas for the Rural Women podcast and for our group as a collective whole. Like, I just think we did something right to attract the right people to this community so far.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you on the calls. And I'll 100% admit this. I hate admitting this, but sometimes it's been hard to show up for those because like this time of year, it's so busy, like on the farm and personally, because it's the summertime and there's just so much to do and so many things that need to be done. But as soon as I sit down and talk to everybody, like I'm automatically just like, I don't know, just like I feel it. It feels so good. And afterwards, I feel like I get way more done because I'm just in such a good mood.
I 100% agree. So one of the other things that is included in our mastermind is the opportunity for our members to host their own mastermind discussions, because it's not just Bev and I who have experience in podcasting. We've been doing it collectively between the two of us for 5 years now? So we have some knowledge in our head, but we also know that our members of the mastermind group have had different experiences when it comes to starting their podcast and where they've gotten to. So like we want to learn from everyone. Our members have the opportunity to host a discussion. And I think most importantly out of all of this, Bev, is the connections that we're building to our fellow podcasters in the food and agriculture space. I don't think we can put a price on how valuable that is.
Yeah, it's nice to know that you're not alone in the struggles that you face. And I also think that by coming together in groups like this, we really get an opportunity to just see each other, you know, as people and podcasters and farmers and experts and, you know, people who just want to tell stories also. And we get the opportunity to really connect with them on another level being together in a place like this that is beyond just listening to each other's shows.
I think as an avid podcast listener myself, I've been listening to some of these shows for coming on years now, and I feel like I have that personal connection with the person behind the microphone, as I'm sure the listeners of your show and of the Rural Women podcast too, they feel those connections. That says something about the community of podcasting as a whole. And I think that there's something special about podcasting specifically, that we're sharing the stories of others and our own stories to come together as a collective.
So, Caitlin, we have a community that holds brave space in service of some very specific things. And you brought this to Positively Farming Media, and I absolutely loved it. And I'm so thankful that you found this. And I would love for you to tell people like what it means to hold a brave space.
Right. I think, we've heard the term safe space, and that comes with its own challenges. But we at Positively Farming Media are holding a brave space. So what that means is we're supporting each other to engage with courage, listen actively, and be open to new ideas, ways of thinking, and accepting feedback. We are allowing tensions to foster creativity and innovation where we challenge ideas, but not people. We're focusing on possibilities of intersectional diversity from acknowledging our bias, assumptions, and judgments. And we are maintaining shared trust, respect, and confidentiality. So all of those things, I think, on top of mixing it with our pillars, really fully describes what the vision for Positively Farming Media was and is and always will be.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, if all of that sounds a little overwhelming or you're concerned about showing up imperfectly, like I said before, we show up to this imperfectly all the time. That's not the goal. Isn't necessarily to only cherry pick people and podcasts that already hold all of these things, but it's to find people and create community with people who hear this and go, gosh, like that's the kind of podcasting world I want to live in. That's a community that I want to be a part of, because those are things that I want to work on myself. And so it's a lot of personal growth and show growth all at the same time.
I think showing up behind a microphone can be super scary. And I think it can also get to a point where maybe we're too comfortable behind this microphone and we're not willing, or we just don't know how to grow. And I think that's why coming together with different ideas and different people from essentially the same space of food and agriculture, but learning together and growing together is going to be what brings our industries and expands them to where they need to go.
Yeah, totally agree.
Growers have a lot to consider when it comes to storing grain. Are you getting the most out of your on-farm grain storage? Could an aeration model help to better determine fan, heater, or dryer needs? And what is the ROI if you installed a bin manager system to remote monitor and control in-bin grain conditioning? At AGI, we want you to ask the tough questions about how Bin Manager allows growers like you to know exactly what is happening inside your bins without climbing a ladder or stairs, or how you can benefit from remotely monitoring your grain temperature and moisture from a smartphone, or how fully automated fans and heaters can provide peace of mind all season long. Contact an AGI representative today for a free on-farm smart storage assessment. Find AGI Bin Manager at aggrowth.com/digital. That's aggrowth.com/digital.
One of the things that Bev and I chatted about prior to launching Positively Farming Media was something that is important to the both of us and something that is fundamental for Positively Farming Media. We are committed to supporting and amplifying the voices of BIPOC farmers and podcasters.
So that means BIPOC members of Positively Farming Media Mastermind will have their membership fees waived indefinitely as a benefit in kind.
A portion of all membership fees collected will be donated to charities, nonprofits, and farms alike. So far, with the fees and funds that we have collected, we did get to donate a little bit to one of the farmers that we all know and love. Scarlett from Loveland Acres was able to receive some funding from Positively Farming Media to continue to grow her programming that she has over in Wisconsin.
Which was pretty awesome to be a part of.
So if this sounds like it's too good to be true, I promise it's not. You can find out more about Positively Farming Media over at positivelyfarmingmedia.com. That's also where you can register and get all of the information to join our wonderful group. Bev, do you have anything you want to leave us with?
Gosh, it's just been really cool to take an idea like this and just like run it all the way through to where we've had the opportunity to have multiple calls with our group already and gotten to know so many podcasters and seen the changes like in my own shows because we workshop our own stuff like right alongside with you. Like it's just been a really cool experience, and it would make my heart incredibly happy if you joined us.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I really hope that if you are listening to this and you yourself have a podcast in the food or agriculture space, that you join us, because there is room at this table for you.
Yeah, we're basically big table carpenters. That's what we could have called this, but
yep.
We went with Positively Farming Media instead.
I didn't want any extra inquiries about my woodworking skills because I tell you what, they're not there. Well, thank you so much, Bev, for having this chat with me. And I'm excited to continue to work and grow with you.
Yes, I am too. This has been awesome. And if anybody has any questions or needs any additional information, you are welcome to reach out to us. We have an Instagram. It is at Positively Farming Media. Over on the Instagram, you can send us a DM or comment on one of our many posts about this. If you have any questions, we would love to clear them up for you. But otherwise, I guess we'll see you in July when we talk about how to monetize your show.
Thanks for listening to the Rural Woman Podcast, a proud member of the Positively Farming Media Podcast Network. The Rural Woman Podcast is more than just a podcast. We are a community. A huge thank you to the Rural Woman Podcast team, audio editor Max Hofer, and admin support from Kim & Co. Online. A special thanks to our Patreon executive producers, Sarah Riedner from Happiness by the Acre and Carrie Munven from Laystone Farms. To learn how you can become a Patreon executive producer or other ways to financially support the show, head on over to wildrosefarmer.com to learn more. Be sure to hit the follow or subscribe button wherever you listen to the podcast to get the latest episodes directly on your playlist. And if you are loving the show, please be sure to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcast or any other platform that accepts ratings and reviews. You can connect with us on social media at The Rural Woman Podcast and with me at Wild Rose Farmer. One of the best ways you can support the show is by sharing it. Send this episode to a friend or share on your social media. Let's strengthen and amplify the voices of women in agriculture together. Until next time, my friend, keep sharing your story. Caitlin Dubin, the host of the Rural Woman Podcast, and Bev Ross, host of the Joy Farmer Podcast, have teamed up to create Positively Farming Media.
Positively Farming Media is a podcast hub that connects and cultivates growth-oriented farm and food storytellers.
We host a mastermind mentoring group that fosters connection and collaboration between podcasters, so you no longer have to produce your show within a silo.
Each month in our member-only online community, new learning modules are released that are designed to increase your show's quality, listenership, and advertising opportunities.
When you join today, you'll have access to the current month's modules and our previously released modules, so you can start growing your show right away.
Learn more and start building connections to fellow podcasters in the food and agriculture space at positivelyfarmingmedia.com.